2024. We'll begin with the pledge, and I'll invite you to remain standing for the invocation, please. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Vice Chairman Mahar.
Thank you. Tonight we welcome Pastor Paul Arnold. He's from First Baptist Church. He's going to give the invocation. Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you, Charlie. Heavenly Father, we thank you that we do live in a country where we do have freedom of speech and freedom of liberty. Today, our hearts go out to our friends in the southern states who have been very devastated with the hurricanes, loss of property, loss of life. Thank you in advance for those who have gone to give assistance, and may we keep these people in our prayers. We thank you for our country, and I thank you that we do live in a country where we have the freedom to speak as we wish. I ask your blessing upon the meeting today. Give these commissioners guidance as they deal with the issues of the county and the decisions that they will make. In Christ's name, amen.
Thank you. Roll call.
Baker, Johnston,
Here?
Peterson,
Yes, ma'am.
Painter, Mahar,
Here.
Carr,
Yes.
and Murray.
Here.
We still have a quorum. Everyone have a copy of the agenda. I don't have anything to change on that. Does anyone else?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Johnston?
move to approve our agenda as presented.
It's been moved and supported to approve the agenda as presented. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Everyone have a copy of last meeting's minutes?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Johnston?
I would move to approve our minutes from the September 23rd, 2024 regular meeting as presented.
Is there support? Support. It's been moved and supported to approve the minutes of the last meeting, September 23rd, 2024, as presented. Discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Public comments? Hearing no public comments, our 4:05 appointment, we have Judge Eggleston with us with Kevin Everingham and Joe Harvey to discuss community corrections position. Welcome, gentlemen.
I hear more from moral support if they're request. I'm just hearing cases that you question about how I should. But soon I showed up on time because right at the front, usually get locked down within a second. So I'll just let them take the lead, and if there's any questions that I can help out with, I'll be happy.
Go ahead, Kevin.
All right. Well, like the paper I sent you, I'm here to request money to make Joe Harvey full-time. I just want to give you a little background on community corrections because I haven't done that in quite a long time. Like all of the earliest community corrections programs in the state, Montcalm program started in 1989, and I've been here since 1991. Our current programs are cognitive programs, IOP classes, which are substance abuse classes in the jail. And then we do praxis assessments and pretrial supervision programs, which would involve tracking people on tether, PBTs, court reminders, things like that for pretrial clients. Pretrial services have been going on in Montcalm County since 2017. They were initiated by Judge Hort through Community Corrections. And it took until 2019 when we added tether options to it so that we could track people when they were out and added a layer of public safety to the program. That went crazy in 2020 when COVID hit and everyone was tethered. So in 2021, we hired Joe Harvey here with the intent on him working to introduce praxis assessments to district court staff. And the numbers that I sent ahead to everyone here just show from 2022, 2023, and 2024 how much that caseload has increased. In 22, 176 people went through pretrial services, different programming, to 221 in 2023. And as it ended in 2024, we had 341 people. Now, just that alone is a lot for a guy to do working part-time, but he handles quite a few other things. As of today, I just looked this morning and jotted down some numbers. We're supervising 36 people who are drug testing and another 44 people who are on either alcohol monitors or tethers who may also be drug testing, and we have to track that separately. So at any given time, Joe's kind of in charge of about 80 people every day to keep track of. He also does about 30 to 40 warrants a year. And that's up or down depending on the year, but which is a way that I think we quickly catch people who are having issues at pretrial and get them back in front of the judge as quickly as possible. In the afternoons, most of my job is doing the classes and organizing the other treatment programs, things like that. But in the afternoons, I have to cover all of the pretrial stuff. There have even been times when I have to cancel classes because I have people coming from the courts to get tethers and to report things like that. Another reason I just want to keep this is probably one of the best employees of the 20 or 30 people I've had working with me in the last 33 years. This guy is a go-getter. He's somebody I want to keep around and working part-time. It's not, I realize that's not your problem. This is my problem, but I want to be able to keep him around and not have him leave. If you weren't here, there's no way I could possibly keep up with pretrial services. We are having a tough time even keeping up with it now. Usually on Mondays, I'm here until 6:30. And I'm salary, so I get paid until 4 every day. So just to keep up with tethers and everything, I'm working over. So what I'm here for, and I want to answer any questions you have, but just requesting that we look at marijuana tax funds to pay for Joe to be a full-time employee.
Have you had a conversation with the controller about that prior to today to
I did.
identify a funding source? Yeah. So I'm assuming that you're on board with that idea, Brenda.
It's a possibility. The only part of it that's kind of sticky is we don't know how long that'll last. So that's the only doppelganger there is. Is it going to be forever? Is it not going to be forever?
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Commissioner Peterson.
Brenda, with this 56,000, is this including benefits or is this just base salary?
Did I give you that number, Kevin? I can't remember.
Yeah, that's the number you gave me.
Running numbers
I
right
believe
now.
that was his benefits.
It's going to depend on, what he takes for benefits. As far as medical insurance would go.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head.
Close.
I think to say it's coming out of marijuana tax funds is a little scary, but at the same time, I don't think that marijuana tax funds are going to go away completely. I think it will fluctuate with, like one here in Stanton is closed, but they're still an operating business.
Yeah, I told they're changing hands or something.
Right. And the one, they're going to open one in Greenville. So, I think as of now, it's a stable funding source. Kevin, can I ask you if we were to bring Joe on full time, would the numbers go up as far as you know, the 341 last year, I assume this is fiscal year,
Yes.
these numbers. So would the numbers be able to go up, or does that depend on the judges?
So, well, all of those things, yes. So I just think there's a trend that it's getting better and better. Things are more and more smooth, and I can ask, you know, the judge to comment on that. But us getting involved in pretrial stuff has just increased every year. It just keeps going up. I think it would make us available a little more, but my whole point here is just so that I'm not covering all the time.
Right. And remind me, you guys get a grant each year of like 90-some thousand,
Yep,
correct?
Department of Corrections.
And that covers your salary.
Myself
and then,
in contracts. We have
Mhm.
3 contracts for other services.
Is there ever an opportunity for that to increase, that grant money?
I'm going to attempt to get additional money. I don't know. I've been turned down multiple times, but all of our numbers that they judge us by through the state, which is the main number is prison commitment rate. And in this county, our prison commitment rate remains at about 33% every year, except this last fiscal year, it was down to 26%. So that drop, after we already had the grant in and everything, when I met with the state coordinator, and she said, you should have asked for more money since the numbers look so good. But, you know, after 3 straight years of a steady prison commitment rate, I had no idea. So I will be asking for additional money from the state. That's also a roll of the dice.
Right.
Judge, if this were to go through, would this make a difference in, you know, number of PBTs you assigned? I mean, GPSs you assigned. Would you be more apt to assign things like this instead of jail time? Or I guess
It helps on the front end because of that reason. There's a movement, it's pretty well documented, for people to be out of jail before trial, which makes sense since pre-trial. So this is on the front end, which is what I predominantly deal with. As far as what I assign, probably, I don't know, quite frankly. Joe's been great about doing what I ask. If I got that, the state funding, if you go to the MDOC, that could come with strings attached saying, okay, we'll give you funding for felonies, but we won't give you funding for misdemeanors. That could be a problem. The guy that's on the domestic second, who's pretty dangerous, or domestic murder, the person on OWI who's, you know, got a bunch of them and hasn't been charged for the felony or for whatever reason. There's a number of things that can come into place. Right now with local funds, you guys will have we have a little bit more control over it. I don't know if the number would really increase. It did increase because I think initially it was only available for felonies, and when it opened up so that I could do it for misdemeanors, it did open up. Tethers work both ways, for example. That also is a great, those who live by the sword die by the sword. And so you can also use tethers are a great example to keep people who could have otherwise been wrongfully convicted for a bond violation. Somebody saying that this person was here and we can show on the tether. No, they weren't. So they actually protect defendants as well. And I've seen them actually greatly protect defendants. So, so I think it's I've seen it be an overall benefit. We're trending in a direction that's outside of my control. A lot of stuff, they're going in a direction where they want everybody out and they want less and less conditions. There's 2 things we can look at: whether or not they're going to show up for court, or whether or not they pose a danger to society. I still very much value that pose a danger to society, but I can tell you there's a direction that appears at a higher level that doesn't necessarily always see that way. I think I was in a meeting or a training session, and they asked somebody that was training us essentially, or giving us information whether or not we should drug test. And they said that doesn't really help with them showing up for court. Didn't even mention the protection to society. People who are using them are much more likely to commit crimes. And I've seen some very serious ones committed, of course, on substances. And the drug testing aspect of it is something that may go away or something like that. That would be my fear. if we were to go completely to state funds. There's a big difference in the way judicial philosophies are pretty important right now. So I think going forward, it's going to continue. So it does help me let people, or it helps me get people out of jail a lot quicker and smoother. And part of the reason Kevin's right, he's doing tethers in the afternoon. There's really nothing we can do about it. That's just kind of when we can get all the stuff around for arraignments, because throughout the day we have to wait for agencies to come in with the complaints. The defense has got to meet with them. It just takes time, and unfortunately, that's just when it is. And that's the issue we run into. And in the mornings when he's getting the reports to see if there's violations, so that's kind of a thing that really we want to do them as soon as possible. That's been a directive that predates me. We've all tried to do it. We just had no success, essentially. So you're dealing with a lot of police agencies, and you got to wait for prosecutors to be available to review them. There's just a lot of parts that take place. So these things they're almost always in the afternoon. And so Kevin I'm sure he does get pulled away from whatever he's doing to do that. I mean, I don't see any way around that. We've tried.
I just have one last question. I don't know how to phrase this, but Joe, do you want to work here?
Very much so.
Okay. Well, I guess when it comes down to it, it appears you've worked here for 3 years. I just want to make sure that, if we were to vote this through, that, you didn't wake up tomorrow and say, I don't really want to be here.
No, sir. There's only been 2 places I've ever lived, and I've lived in quite a few places that I've ever loved. My hometown, Grand Rapids, and Montcalm County. And Montcalm County was a very pleasant surprise when my wife was offered a job. She was headhunted back. We were living in the Detroit area. She was headhunted for a job back in Grand Rapids. And we simply said, let's find someplace woodsy. And we found a beautiful home just south of Stanton. And I saw the job posted for pretrial services. I have a legal background. I've worked off and on for various legal entities for the majority of my adult life, and applied for the job. Kevin and I worked together fantastically. And it has become probably the most fulfilling job I've ever had.
So you didn't want to sit at home and be a trophy husband. You wanted to.
I've got chickens to tend to at home.
Oh,
so.
okay. You're chicken dad. I get it.
Yes, but to sort of touch on what both of these gentlemen said, I'm there for 4 hours a day, and I think both of them will tell you that when I tell you that I always try to pack 6 hours worth of work into that 4 hours, like that's the mentality that I go into with every day. It's simply we're at a point where it's barely tenable to do that, and so we put our heads together. We thought, how can we do this? And here we are.
Well, I appreciate that answer. That's all I got.
It definitely helps with getting people out of jail fast. I mean, it's something that the sooner they can get over there and get the services going, the faster, and the more secure I am in getting people out. Because I have to live here too. So the last thing I want is somebody getting, I have to drive these roads. I'm in danger just like the rest of y'all. So I want to make sure that my kids are on the roads, which is scary for the public as well. But it's just, in general, it's something we have to be considerate of. So it does give some peace of mind. We never can make it 100%, but it is something that I think is a worthwhile venture. So, like I said, I have no dog in the fight. It's not my budget. I don't care how you guys do it. I'm just telling you what my experience with it's been positive.
I think we've been looking for somewhere to spend the marijuana money. I think this is a benefit to the.
Yeah, it's really kind of the first one that I've remember that has kind of a tie to this business. I mean, the other things we've talked about is just kind of
right.
because it's there, maybe we could use it on that, but this seems to be a good use for it. So,
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Peterson.
I'd move to appropriate the amount of $56,500 from the general fund to make the community corrections pretrial service agent a full-time position utilizing marijuana tax funds. Effective what day?
Oh, let's make it the first of a pay period.
When's the first of a pay
Let
period?
me get my calendar up here.
No, I know you guys send in your payroll this, I'm on
We
salary.
got
so
paid last week.
This Friday, you
so
send it in.
Probably should, I guess it doesn't matter.
Well,
You
tell
can
me a
make it
day.
effective today.
I think next Monday.
It doesn't matter. His pay rate's not gonna change. I was thinking about. Pay
How
rates,
about
but
November 1st? Does that work?
That's fine.
Well, you tell me. I don't.
That's a Friday.
He probably wants him now, full
Okay,
time.
effective today.
Support. Yeah. Okay, it's been moved and supported. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
I
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you too. Up next, our 420, Doug Geetson, the Director of Building Grounds, is here for a Commission on Aging request. Good afternoon, Doug.
Good afternoon. So it's been requested to have a carport built for the 8 existing vans that are used by the Commission on Aging. They're going to have a 9th one coming. But anyway, the whole purpose is, and Lisa could tell you better, but she has a lot of volunteers that are aged, I'm going to use that term, and getting not younger. So in the winter, we don't have a lot of time to clean between vans or around vans when we're cleaning, especially now doing parking lots and everything. So those areas are becoming a bigger hazard. And if we get the weather they're talking this year, a bigger hazard yet. Plus the time of just cleaning off vehicles, de-icing the whole 9 yards. Also, the vehicles I feel would last longer if they were covered and somewhat out of the sun. They sit out on the tarmac there all day if they're not being used. I understand that, about half of them are used every day. So this was just a way to create an area. They had tried to do that back in 2020, I believe, with a state of Michigan grant.
Older than that. It's in the teens.
When I first came, they were still working on it. So, but the grant was through the state of Michigan, and it was just, there were so many hoops to jump through that we finally parted company with them. So I didn't put it on my budget because we were in the process of trying to find some grants to do that, and we haven't been able to locate any grants. But I had already had some contractors on board helping us to decide what we needed and what was available and what it might cost. So we decided to run with it and see what we could get. I have the explanation there. We've actually put it out to quite a few different contractors, and 2 of the 3 actual carport builders responded. So that's the prices we have in front of us. So if it's something you would like to do, there's the numbers, there's the names.
So it talks about in the presentation, see the pictures or whatever. I pan ahead a ways. There's a kind of a scale drawing of something that looks like 10 bays. Is that,
Yep.
is that big?
So there was a little bit of confusion there between Lisa and Brendan and myself. I had an extra bay for Commission on Aging, and I had a car that I was going to stick into it just to keep it out of the parking lot for plowing purposes.
Sure.
So they took it that it was full, and because she's purchasing another van, they needed another space. So 10 spaces, 9 spaces, I mean, whatever we can get.
Is this open? Do those have doors on? all
No,
those?
no, they would just be open. 3 sides, 2 sides would be pretty well enclosed. The back side would be not completely enclosed, have a little breathing room top and bottom. Whoops, sorry about that. And then the part you drive in would be all open. Trying to work with the company if we decide to do this, trying to work with the company to eliminate as many posts as possible. All these companies seem to build these like you would for an apartment complex, where if you wanted to rent a garage, they'd put a wall up, put an overhead door on it, and they'd call it a garage. Not really what we need, but that's the kind of stuff that they are engineered to build already. So trying to tweak that a little bit, but this is the basic design they put out to everybody.
Remind me again where you're proposing putting it in that parking lot.
Well, right now they park on the north side straight across from Commission on Aging. Actually be against the prosecutor's end of the building for the courts. We'd like to go completely opposite and put it on the west end over where the mental health department already parks their vehicles. It would be between health department and animal control, that section of parking there up against the south side of the parking lot.
With the openings facing to the
North.
east?
North. It would run east and west.
Oh, kind of backed up against Quarter Line Road, if you will.
Yeah, quarter line would be to the south of it. Yep. There's a yard there between the parking lot and quarter line.
Sure.
One, it helps with the northwest wind that we basically have most of the time, give a little more blockage. It also frees up a lot of parking spaces for them when they have their luncheons and stuff, because if they have 6 drivers that day, they have 6 vehicles parked in the parking lot, as those 6 vans are gone, but we have them listed as non-parking areas for anybody else. So the more drivers she has out, the less parking spaces she actually has for the patrons that come for lunch or whatever other services they provide. So by moving 9 vans and keeping 9 driver vans out of there, it opens up relatively 18 more spaces.
And
Anyone else?
Brenda, what money would we use for this?
I don't know. What money do you want to use for it?
Somebody else's.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Crash should have any?
So
You have any fund
she has
balance?
764,000 in fund balance.
That's where
We
use.
did use 179 of that for this year's budget. We budgeted-
179 from her budget, or from her fund balance for her budget.
Yes.
Right.
But we've used fund balance every year and not really used any of it.
Right.
So
Well, I think if and this might come across as a little brash, but if she wants to make requests, she's got to be willing to pay for them, right?
Yeah.
If she has that kind of fund balance, I think
And she
Right.
is.
this is
right.
a drop in the bucket. And no offense, Lisa, does that sound fair to you? Okay.
Anyone else?
I would move to accept the bid from Carport Central in the amount of $28,358.40 to construct a 10-vehicle carport for the Commission on Aging vehicles to come out of the Commission on Aging fund balance. Support.
It's been moved and supported. Discussion? If there's no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
4:30, we have Darren Dode, the village manager from Lakeview, to discuss the countywide radio encryption project.
Did you get one of these? Okay.
Welcome, Darren.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for your time. Oh, not quite this evening, it's afternoon. You have the sheet printed in front of you that I dropped off for everyone, but essentially I had come before the board previously to make you aware of the new CGIS requirements for radio encryption for the law enforcement frequencies. Since our last CGIS meeting, they finally came out with answers to some of the questions we had that Commissioner Peterson had brought up, and as well as Commissioner Baker prior to his leaving. What were the consequences going to be should these things not be done with? So long and the short of it, as you may or may not know, law enforcement agencies are required to have a lien audit, law enforcement information network audits every 3 years. And so when those happen, they actually come in, audit our records, make sure that certain things are in place, make sure that if I were going to run a criminal history on a subject, I have a valid reason, I can prove those things. And in that same like, they were going to attach this radio encryption requirement to those lien audits. So when we were audited, if we're not compliant, then we're sanctioned. Basically, we get a reprimand to improve it. What are we going to do in this time frame, as well as then potential sanctions where they could pull our lien use. So potentially our department may not be able to run drivers on a traffic stop, that's very much a problem. So their other issue is they have the ability to fine us. So rarely do things go to that point, but if you basically tell them you're not going to comply, then that's where they escalate. So they came out with some guidelines that in 2025, if you're non-compliant, you're going to get a letter of reprimand, and basically you have to put into plan a course of action that you're going to take. By 26, they're going to start doing both. So the issue here is that this is going to happen throughout the entire country in law enforcement. So when you think of that, that's pretty devastating to the law enforcement arena, what that's going to entail for cost. So I think that it's very important that we are as ahead of this as we are. I think collectively, all the agencies in the county are 100% on board with this, not to mention that the existing radios that we will have that cannot be upgraded are still good for corrections use, fire department use, school use, some of the other areas where we still have a niche and a need. So number wise, you have the numbers in front of you. The overall cost of the project was near $1 million, but as you can see that it's broke out, Sheriff Mike Williams is willing to allow his portion to come out of his millage money. The dispatch director, Amy Thomas, is already pre-planned for this, knowing it was coming, and she's planning to use some of her millage money for that, leaving the remaining total of about $366,314. That would cover the remaining small agencies throughout the county who obviously back the state and the county units up all the time, and vice versa. This would give us continued operability, as well as then keeping secondary channels that would be non-proprietary for communicating with fire departments, schools, DPWs, and et cetera. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you have, if you have any.
Okay, thank you. The number is pleasantly lower than what we'd first talked about and what our commitment for that would be.
So originally, Motorola gave us a number of about 1.2 million. And then collectively, when they figured out that we were going to do this as a whole, they gave us a discount. And then obviously the next piece here is that the sheriff being willing to take that portion out of his millage money and the dispatch center taking it out of theirs reduces it significantly, where that wouldn't have to come out of this money that you have.
With all that being said, Greenville's number seems disproportionate to what, like, I know they're the biggest entity there yet to go, but it doesn't seem like they're 5 times bigger than yours, for example.
They are easily.
Are they
Yeah.
putting any money towards this at all?
This is none of these agencies contributing. That's correct.
So Greenville's not putting any money towards it.
Correct. None of these agencies would be, with the exception of the sheriff's office and the dispatch center.
Darren, where do you think we're at statewide with departments doing this? Are we ahead of the curve?
So
Are we behind?
we are, and I actually did some research with that, and I found out that different counties do things a little bit differently. For example, I don't know if you remember, Brandon Poole used to work for the sheriff's office, is now in Norton Shores. In their county, the dispatch center owns all the radio equipment. So basically, all of the radio equipment's coming out of the dispatch budget, and then they assign radios to departments, which is really weird. But I also found that there are some agencies that they're not even aware that you needed to do this or that this is coming. That's how in the dark they are. I think that the sheriff and I are at a very much advantaged by being on the CJIS board at the state level. And I really think that bodes well to being on external committees where you have relationships built and you find out information ahead of time that is very life-changing. So I think we're fortunate to be where we are in this project and being forward-thinking. Because I think when the gate opens here, getting equipment and the things that we need to function are really going to be hard to get. And then I think then the next piece is the state going to come in and push off their mandate? I don't know. I can't answer that. But I have a CGIS meeting this Friday as well. My guess is we'll talk more about it again, but it sounds like they're very, very much intending to follow the federal structure on this. So
What would be the timing of when you would like to have that funding secured and start?
Well,
purchase?
I think the sooner that we pull the trigger on it, and that we can get, I mean, this is a significant order, and a significant amount of work. Everything has to be touched, every vehicle. All these handhelds would have to be prepped, set up through the state. So, if that didn't take 6 months, I'd be surprised. So for them to get an order together this magnitude, I would guess is several months. So the likelihood of getting this complete by next fall is pretty legitimate.
What do you think the cash of used equipment coming back to other entities would be out of this?
Well, I guess my issue is that if you remember, we did this radio project, not for all the radios that are in use now. I think agencies were given two way back, and then we continued to purchase more and so on. But I guess I look at that, at least speaking for my department, I have that equipment. So, I'm going to look at, does my DPW have a need? If not, then I'm going to look at who can I give it to that has a need, whether that's Lakeview Fire, Lakeview Schools.
Regardless of whether you keep yours in-house or not, do you think that will be like 100 units in the whole project that either your DPW or ISD or someone else in the county will be able to take advantage of?
That's a fair estimate.
Well, 100.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's significant. I mean, that's a.
Right. And I guess the other piece of this or the takeaway is that we have a lot of these are units that are mounted in vehicles where typically, fire apparatus at all these different townships don't have them. They usually just have somebody grabbing a portable. Well, having a hard mounted unit is a lot more reliable. So thinking of, the potential 40 of those that might be available would be good for fire apparatus, public works vehicles, those types of things, where the handhelds, there's easily got to be 100 of them.
Yeah. Well, just to back up and preface his request, if you remember, we had kind of like four places in the hopper identified, and we're going to hear pitches on 2 of those tonight and 2 next meeting, right?
Mhm.
But the overall scope of that, I think, is the object was to take money to reduce our fund balance. And all 4 of these projects, in my mind, are projects that benefit the entire community. We've got this one that is a radio need that everyone in the Montcalm County benefits from law enforcement. The other one is the mental health piece, behavioral health. We've seen the stats and we know where that's headed. That's a piece that helps that organization. And I think you can make the argument everyone in the county benefits from that. We've got the road commission piece. Obviously, everyone benefits from better roads. And then the third one was the fourth one was the one that Commissioner Peterson will speak to tonight on the Community Advancement Committee, that I think the economic development engine in the county benefits everyone as well. So I think it's really a well-rounded group of projects that we're considering doing something with. And the fact, especially now, this one is considerably cheaper than we were initially planning on. I think that's I'm in favor of all 4 of them anyway, but I think this one is should get green lighted as well. So,
And I don't disagree with you at all. I think this is, I think it's noble of the sheriff to, put up some of his millage money to do this. Central Dispatch, same thing. I don't want to be the turd in the punch bowl, but Greenville is the biggest number on this bill, and they're not offering to put up any. Have we contacted them? Have you?
Well, so I guess the premise started with this being my idea that, look, we have this need coming in our county, law enforcement wide. It wasn't about agency specific. And if you recall in the beginning, I even asked to cover the sheriff's office. So
Right.
Knowing that he had a millage fund balance, at the end of the day, it's not up to me to decide what those dollars are for. And regardless of whether you wear a Lakeview PD uniform, a Greenville DPS uniform, or a Carson City one, we all do the same job. And the idea here is that we protect citizens in Montcalm County. It wasn't about, who could afford to put 10% in the pot or any of those things. It was about what could we do or what could we ask for that would help all the citizens in Montcalm County, regardless of where they lived. And I guess that being said, I'm in Greenville frequently. Greenville, I could get in a car wreck on 91 and 57, and they're going to be out there using their radios to save my life, or direct traffic, or any of those said things. So regardless of where you are in the county, I don't think that matters. And so I guess the premise that this all started, Wonder, was that the county had a significant fund balance that they were looking to reduce. I came up with the idea that, hey, look, here's an idea that affects all the citizens in Montcalm County, regardless of what entity has what money. I certainly do not have excess fund balance. I wish that's Lakeview did, but we don't. And obviously I can't speak to everybody else's budget. At the end of the day, if I've got to come up with that number, I'm going to, because I'm not going to get written up by the state for being non-compliant. We're going to have to take it from somewhere else, and something else will suffer. So this is an option where all of us communities collectively can benefit because of the Board of Commissioners and the county's decision to fund it.
That's a fair point. Have you sold used cars before? In the past? You've sold something like snake oil or something.
So I will confess to you that
You sold them
Yes, the answer is
encyclopedias,
yes.
encyclopedias door to door or something.
I did take sales and marketing classes.
Weird.
yes.
I can't imagine. So is this, I guess, for the board, is this something, do we want to hear all four of these and then vote on them when we hear them? I mean, I think,
That's how I would handle it.
yeah, I think that would be the easiest way to do it and the fairest way. I think ultimately though, like Commissioner Carr said, this price tag is considerably lower than what we thought it was going to be when we first heard it. But
I think your idea of hearing them all and then having a whole slate that we're trying to adopt and afford makes the most sense. But,
yeah,
and that's why I asked the question. So to that, Darren, if we wait 2 weeks for the other two requests and we make a
No.
decision on this in the first meeting in November or sometime before the end of the year, is that timing wise?
That's still adequate. Yeah. I think if this doesn't happen by the first part of the year, then we're all going to look at putting our own plans in place to get ahead of everybody else's orders.
Sure.
So that we don't end up in the middle of the mess.
I think unless barring some unforeseen circumstance, we should have an answer by the first meeting in November.
Darren,
Sure.
is there any concern that if we go ahead with this, but then the feds decide to not go forward with their plans?
That's not what I'm hearing. What I'm hearing is that they're going to continue to add requirements down the road, and these radios that we will be purchasing are going to be able to handle those upgrades. So this sets us up for the future. Of course, 10 years, 15 years from now, who knows what that will be, and or will they have exceeded their life expectancy? I don't know that. Personally, I think they build things to break, but so, and I've been down that road with some software and hardware issues in patrol cars already with cables. I didn't know you could time a cable out, but apparently you can. So, well, I appreciate everybody's consideration on this and look forward to hearing your answer.
I've got one last question.
Sure.
The money that will be coming out of the sheriff's department,
Correct.
mileage money, is that, and I see Sheriff Williams is in that, is that what their portion would have been? Or are you putting
Correct.
additional monies in that would have been greater than?
No,
Well,
that's
you're-
their entire cost in this.
Okay.
Yeah, same as every entity on here, that's their entire cost or their portion for their agency.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Darren. Okay, up next, our 450 is Commissioner Peterson with the Community Advancement Committee's request for the endowment or the / foundation fund. So,
if it's okay with the board, I'll just sit right here.
yeah,
So I think I've touched, yeah, that's, I mean, I'm just lazy. I don't want to move. I don't care.
Just like seeing the hot seat.
Having a hard time seeing you over there, Adam.
Come on now.
Everybody
else has to do.
Yeah. Doesn't
Oh, it's
bother me.
Oh, man, can I go sit in his seat?
The pictures.
Can I be Adam?
You guys ought to know not to challenge him.
So much better.
Oh my gosh, this is so intimidating. I'm so scared. No, if I start shaking, you can pass me notes, Darren. So I think we've talked about this at length. When the planning commission was dissolved, we decided to take that entity into a different direction as far as what could we make this into that would advance Montcalm County as a whole. We decidedly named it the Community Advancement Committee, otherwise known as the CAC. We have since Darren has done quite a bit of work, kind of coming up with a master plan, and we've whittled it down to we would like to be able to take some of the county's fund balance and invest it to the tune of $2 million and only spend the interest off of that investment towards community projects. I mean, I don't have any specifics, but you could use the Howard City train station as one. If Darren, I mean, I'm sure Darren won't come in front of the committee asking for any money for Lakeview, but I mean the trail, what was it, the Tamarack Trail up there you guys got? I mean, just things like that we could, the committee could, I guess, effectively have an endowment fund to improve our county. I mean, I don't know what scope that's going to look like. That's going to have to be something we see when we start seeing requests. But the benefit to this is the county still retains the money. We would take that 2 million, and we'd have to make sure we're putting it somewhere that it would grow interest, and obviously we would look to see what the best interest would be, interest rates, and then only spend what comes off there. So Darren, correct me if I'm wrong, we were thinking if we did it right at $2 million, there'd be 60,000 a year, give or take. If not a little more, just 60,000 is a low ball, just to not get over our skis there. But so I guess essentially, being that the money retains, the county retains the money, if we did fall on hard times, it wouldn't be like buying a one-time purchase. It would be, we still have that money, we can still claw it back if we need it. It's basically a safety blanket. So if the state ever comes calling again and says, you guys got 2 weeks or we're coming, we still have that 2 million to claw back. The Community Advancement Committee just kind of goes into idle mode. We don't endow any money to any projects. I mean, really, there's no downside to it outside of our committee is probably going to get flooded with asks, which is fine. I think that's what we're there for. That's what we're going to have to, kind of cipher through and figure out what's worth it and what's not. But ultimately, I think it's a good investment back into our county, and then, ultimately our taxpayers. That's my shtick. So if any board members have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Right now, you guys don't have any sort of parameters on what sort of projects you'd be looking?
Well, I think it's been kicked around. I think we're kind of in a holding pattern right now, just because we don't know if we're going to get the money or not. So it's kind of hard to say, this is what we're going to do, this isn't what we're going to do. I think we've kind of narrowed it down to something that ultimately is going to benefit the entire county. So if Crystal came to us and said, hey, we're 50,000 short on our park. Well, I think there could be, arguments on both sides of that. I think the whole county can use that park. Are we going to give it to Crystal for a park and then next year say no to Greenville for a park? You know, we're going to have to figure out what we can and we can't say yes to. But I think ultimately we're not looking to, and Darren can correct me if I'm wrong, we're not looking to build, you know, township halls for different entities, or, you know, oh, we need a road repaved. I just don't think that's something we're looking for. This is more of, you know, parks or things that all taxpayers in the county can use. But again, I don't think we wanted to get too far ahead of it until we know what we can spend and what we have.
When we've talked about matches too,
Right.
and in the communities that are doing that, do some sort of a match.
I fully, support this. We had a vote on it and stuff, but to me, it just makes sense. I see no downside whatsoever. The money's there if we get into a time where we need it. And here we are accumulating money that's going to go towards projects that are a good idea, then maybe the funding just isn't there.
Right.
And so I think it's a great idea.
Along with the match thing, I wonder also, instead of the match or alongside of it or something else, what if you granted a business 50,000 and required them to, once their project was successful or mowed away, that they paid back 10,000, say. So then next year's cycle, you've got your 50 or 60 or whatever you had in the coffers from the interest plus an additional 10 or 5 or whatever just another way for that endowment to grow faster than just what
we kind of talked about that a little bit, and the only sticking point with that is ultimately we would essentially become a loan shark. I mean, if you give out a loan to a privately owned business and say we expect this much back, if that business doesn't make it and we still expect $10,000, we're not going to get it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't want to speak for the entire committee, but I don't think we're trying to create a startup fund or a bailout fund. It's just more of municipalities coming to us and saying, hey, we'd really like to, put pickleball courts in Pearson's new park, or
New fire truck, and we're 40,000
right,
shy.
right, exactly. Something that would benefit everybody, as far as that. I mean,
Or maybe even a grant match. They need a grant.
Right. Yeah. If they can get a grant,
The match.
yeah.
money.
And they don't have it. I mean, just things like that we can help with, and not, but I don't want to discredit your idea. It's not a bad idea. And if it got to the point to where that's what we were running into, we could, cross that bridge when we get there.
Sky's the limit, I think. Good. Any other questions for?
This would essentially be seed money.
Well, I mean, the $2 million that the county the board would invest would be seed money. We wouldn't spend any of the principal. So it would all be, spending off the interest. So that $2 million will always be there. It'll never get lowered. So if we ever have to claw it back, and maybe we don't use it all in 1 year, maybe we don't use all that interest, that goes back into the pot. So, I mean, I guess ideally we would use every dollar of that interest to improve the community, but maybe it doesn't work sometimes. But
like Chairman Carr said, I think my expectation from giving to a business to help would be different than it would be to a more like a public entity. I would probably have a different expectation from a business than I would from, maybe we don't have to, and obviously this doesn't have to be decided today, but maybe have an understanding or that this is what we'd like to see.
Oh yeah.
And whether it's, because obviously if a business fails, although I don't think that we want to contribute to failing business.
Right.
It seems like a bad deal.
Yeah. And like I say, I think essentially the committee has just kind of been in a holding pattern. I think we have very, very good pieces of the puzzle on that committee. Darren's on there, Mike Falcon. I mean, we're going to have a vacancy with Jacob Begard stepping down at the right place. So, I mean, that's something we could fill, you know, with another community leader, you know, just people with their fingers on the pulse that, you know, we can kind of look and see where the needs are. You know, I know the east side of the county gets kind of looked over quite a bit. So, you know, we have a couple people from the east side on that committee, and they kind of have the lay of the land over there. So, and I think ultimately the committee isn't going to be the judge, jury, and executioner. I think we will hear people's asks and then come back and recommend it to the board, because ultimately the board's going to have, you know, ultimate control of the money. So
I like it.
I kind of like the idea of maybe you sit on it for 2 years, maybe accumulate it.
and we've talked about that. We've also talked about maybe if there is, I mean, now that we've given community corrections 58,000, I'm sure there's still how much in marijuana money sitting there, 400,000 or 500,000, something like that.
Oh, more than that, probably.
So we've also talked about, you know, maybe taking the 2 million out of the general fund and then say 60,000 out of the marijuana money, and being able to get off the ground next year and start hearing asks next year.
Or ARPA interest.
Or ARPA interest, that was another one. You know, so there's multiple. I mean, we're very fortunate as a county. I think years of Commissioner Carr and I sitting up here saying no to everybody and getting in fights has benefited our bottom line to the point to where now we can kind of be a little more liberal with our money, but still staying vigilant about it. So, and it would include a suite down at Comerica Park for just for Commissioner Carr and whoever he decides to bring with him. Don't put that in the paper, Elizabeth. It was obviously a joke. I'm going to get so many messages today.
You really say that?
Is that really happening? Does anybody else have any questions, or can I go sit back at my desk now?
I think we're good. Thank
All
you.
right. Hey, thanks, guys. It's been a real joy.
Said that with so much conviction.
All right, that ends our timed agenda items. Up next is correspondence. Vice Chairman Mahar, please.
All right. Item 1 for your board correspondence for your consideration. Found on pages 26 through 54, you'll see a request from Eric Smith that we approve the Emergency Management Performance Grant Work Agreement. This is just signifies our intent to continue on with this grant, which we have done every year over the last several years. It's kind of a formality. With that being said, I would move to allow for signatures and submission of the fiscal year 25 EMPG initial work agreement.
Been moved and supported. Discussion. If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
All right, item number 2, pages 55 through 64. You'll see a request from Lisa Posey, who is in the house this afternoon. If you want to chime in at any time, feel free. I think I can explain it. Lisa is asking that we approve the fiscal year 2025 Reliance Caregiver Respite Program Agreement. This program provides respite for caregivers to people, I think it's between 18 and 64 years of age. And I guess I don't really know the specifics though. Does this allows them to come in and take a break basically from giving care during the course of a day?
Yes, so where the 18 comes into place, the caregiver has to be 18 and up. So you're taking care of a loved one, whatever. This allows for a trained aide to come in and provide care and supervision to your loved one while you get a break.
Yep.
from caregiving.
Perfect. And this is money we're receiving.
Yes.
Okay.
And I also had written a 3% increase in there.
The 17,000 represent the 3% increase or not? Okay.
All right. With that being said, I will move to approve the agreement and allow Chairman Carr to sign the Reliance Caregiver Respite Program Agreement for fiscal year 25.
Support. It's been moved and supported. Discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Item number 3, pages 65 and 66. You'll see a request from Brenda. This is to approve the Material Management Planning Committee's recommendation for the county's MMP work program. After we approve this, it then goes to Eagle, Environmental, Great Lakes, and Energy for final approval. Do you have anything to say on this one, Brenda?
Just protocol in the process of the new Part 115 update from the solid waste planning to materials management planning. They may reject it. I don't necessarily know why they would, but I mean, there's a chance they'll reject it and tell us to do something different. But that's kind of what we've come up with as a timeline for ourselves.
I'll move to approve the MMP work program plan as presented and allow the designated planning agent, county controller, to submit to Eagle for approval.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Item 4 on 67 and 68. You'll see a request from Brenda to approve the proposal for AGIC emergency response system for the administration building, the drain office, the animal control, and Commission on Aging. I'm going to let Brenda say a few things about this. I've got a few questions myself, just on what it all entails.
So this is the same program that the sheriff implemented with the court complex as part of their security review and things that Scale have indicated we needed. So it basically is a piece of software that would go on everybody's computer and their cell phones. So if anything should happen, fire, tornado, active shooter, and they did those drills, if you remember earlier this year, they did the practice drills. And then we actually had an active shooter incident in the parking lot out there. I think it was in August, which had like immediate response. And the sheriff's department was able to locate the gentleman and find out that he was just threatening. It was an empty threat, basically, to somebody else. But what this program does is they will, in their software, lay out all 3 floors of this building, the back, that where veterans and MSU is, the drain office, Commission on Aging, and animal control. And then every office would be labeled with a number. And then whomever would activate the notice or the emergency notice, they would have to indicate the number of the room, and then that would go out to everyone in the county that's on this. So everyone would know exactly what the problem is and where it's at. Our maintenance guys found one of our, it looks like a little garage door opener, but there are panic buttons. They found it on an equalization cabinet that was getting removed from their office down in Vets when they were doing the remodel. And they had it out to their maintenance barn playing with it, trying to figure out what it went to. Couldn't find anything out there that would activate. So then they come up here to try to see what it went to. 40 minutes later, we got a response from the sheriff's department about you guys got a problem up here? There's an emergency. Where is it? And they don't know where it's at. They don't, and we're the only building that has that panic button thing. And they had no idea where to go. I mean, they just started popping into offices and saying, you guys got a problem going on? We got a panic button alert. You got a problem? So it was kind of like, really? We'd all be dead by now with that system, so.
But that system is already paid for.
Well, we pay a small maintenance fee every year. That's probably why we don't get very good response time. I think it's only like $500 a year. So it was just something that, I wanted to see if there was any interest in implementing that in all of our buildings.
Total is 11 grand.
I think
That's
that's
an
And every-
annual. Yeah, that's
Every year it's
it's an annual. I
plus
think they say
5%.
Goes up. I know it's a lot.
So I just want to make sure I understand the system. So if you were, do you have something that you initiated or everybody does in the buildings?
Yes, it's this little plus sign right there. See, I can see it if it goes off in the court complex right now. It'll come up on my, it'll give me an alert that there's something going on and where it's going on.
How
And
does somebody initiate that?
right here, I would hit that button
Okay.
and everyone would have it on their phone. Chris was out there when.
So we have it on our phones or on our desktop. So when our computer comes up every morning,
Mhm,
it's
it
up.
opens
We
right
just minimize it. And then you just say start drill. And it, boom, goes out. You have a option to pick what kind of alarm it is. I have an active shooter or we have a fire, whatever.
So it's like seconds response time, really.
It was very quick.
Do you think that, so I mean, it really relies on people on the ground, just employees making this go, right? I mean, do we do training on that so that they're kind of
Mike
prepared
did
to?
training with us.
Okay.
We found a lot of weak spots, for like where are your safety places to go, and we found areas that needed work.
Mhm.
Was
And
this
this-
in conjunction with where Gary Valentine trained
Kinda, yeah.
some of his recommendation?
And
It's
this-
resulting from that and the scale requirements for the court complex.
And it sends the information to dispatch too, or
Sends
not?
the
Or
information to
just-
everyone on here, which our sheriff's department is on there. Everyone at the sheriff's department.
Okay.
So,
And is dispatch all?
But we literally even know what room the event is taking place in.
mhm.
So it, like I have, like my office has certain numbers, whether it be back in my office or in the front office or the lobby. You indicate what room it is.
So how much a year do we currently spend with the buildings or offices that have this system?
So the court complex is the only one that has it, and I think it's around 4,000 a year for them.
Have we had an incident yet where we've used this live?
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
active shooter.
August. In
Oh, we did?
August.
And did it seem to work well?
Yeah, heck yeah. From the story I heard anyway. Everyone was guns a-blazing out of the sheriff's department to go see what was going on. And it was two people that had just come out of the court complex and, probably wasn't a good result for one of them, so.
So there really isn't any equipment that goes along with it. It's basically software on the
All
computer.
software, yeah.
Okay.
How long a commitment?
Hmm?
Like if we sign up for this, how long of a commitment is it? Is it a year-to-year
Like
thing?
I'm not sure. It's a good question. I would assume so. It's like a year-to-year contract. So you could cancel it anytime if you wanted. I mean, I could go back to them and see if they can sharpen their pencil a little bit harder.
If it's 4,000 for the whole shebang out there, I don't understand how it's 11 out here.
Well, that's for everything though. So it's 4,000 for our building, right?
Yeah.
And then
But
there's
you've
it's
got-
$3,000 for vets
Train.
and MSU. I guess I would include that's
Yeah.
included on our building.
Animal control and commission on aging.
I don't know. That's has something to do with their map drawing as well. That's how they price it that way. Because this is a 3-story structure and then that back there is just a 1-story. That's
Right. Yeah, I don't know. It just seems like the map that the clerk's showing me right here has got to be about the same square footage as this, but it's 2.5 times as much. I don't know. I would say ask them if that's their last best offer, I
The
guess.
entire court complex is less than 5. Is that what you're saying there?
I would have to look it up to be sure. Let me find his budget and see.
But then like,
It's just my guess.
If it's software, I don't understand square footage.
I think because they've got to build the map. But I get what you're saying. You'd think there'd be a fee for the
for a
setup and
computer or
then
something.
an annual maintenance fee that's much smaller is what you'd think.
Right, if it was 11,000 to set it up and then, 4,000 or 5,000 a year.
Yeah, yeah.
That would make a lot more sense, but
Agreed.
a 5% increase every year for the same service is just,
Yeah.
I mean, have we looked anywhere else? Is this the only,
Well, we don't want to be on I don't know if we want to be on a different system than the court complexes. Would be my only,
yes.
I don't know.
I guess my biggest question would be why is it so much more here than it is out there? But
And I don't understand the map situation. Why do we have to pay that every year?
The numbers don't seem to make sense, I guess, in the big scheme. I don't want to hold up the but like the Commission on Aging says 6,000 square feet, $1,900. The MSU and Vets 5,700 square feet, almost 2,500. So I don't know why.
All right, his might be, I don't know. I'd have to email Mike, I guess, and see what his is. I thought oh, here it is. His is 5,000, $49.95 for the court complex.
and how much square footage is that?
I don't know. That'd be a good question for Doug. He's not here. Let me see if I can see it on a bill.
There must be something more, the square footage, because like for this building, almost 17,000 square feet is $4,000. These other ones that are a third of that are almost the same cost.
And I don't know if it's because, some of them we're not all contiguous, we're not all here.
Mhm.
If they're charging a premium for that.
Well, I think there's some support. I just wondered if we couldn't get a little more information on how they are figuring their pricing and maybe see if we could potentially get a little bit better price on it.
Is that going to be a holdup or a problem if we try and gather more information and talk
No.
about it again in 2 weeks?
We can do that.
Is that the pleasure of the board? Okay.
We don't need a motion to table that or anything, do we?
You can make a motion to direct the controller to learn more about it and go from there if you want to.
Yeah, I'll move. I'll make a motion to have our controller find out more specifics about the pricing, how it is figured, and just check into a potential lower price.
Support. It's been moved and supported. Discussion. If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
All right, item number 5, you'll find on page 69, 78, warrant report 09262024 in the amount of $1,066,329.41. Item number 6, pages 79 through 85, warrant report 100322024 in the amount of $507,006.73. Item number 7, found on pages 86 through 98, warrant report 1002024 in the amount of $7,709,329.73. $389.34. And item number 8, pages 99 through 142, is warrant report 10142024 in the amount of $1,228,938.33. All 4 warrant reports, total amount of $10,511,663.81. I will move to approve all 4 warrant reports as presented.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to approve all 4 warrant reports totaling $10,511,663.81. Discussion.
Buy a lot of tater tots with that money, boy.
That was a big month.
That's a big one. Yeah.
Almost 8 million was state ed tax. So, and I had Amber go down and double check with them, to make sure that was correct. And they assured us it was.
If there's no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
I
Opposed? Motion carried.
Items 9 through 13 are part of the consent agenda. I'll move to place those items on file.
support.
It's been moved and supported to place items 9 through 13 of the consent agenda on file. Discussion. Hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
I
Opposed? Motion carried.
Items 14 and 15 are information only. We do have a resolution out of Wexford County, kind of an interesting resolution. They have made a resolution declaring that they are not a sanctuary for illegal immigration. So, interesting. That will end your board correspondence for Monday, October 14th, 2024.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Mahar. Up next is committee reports. We don't have one. New business. Item 1, clerk correspondence. Item 2, controller correspondence.
I had a few things. Just wanted to point out the MAC information that I put on your desks. I went to the MAC conference in September. Brought back all that good information for you, their platforms and their briefings and whatnot. And then I wanted to ask about the parks tour this Wednesday. Was anyone planning to attend that? Starting at 9 a.m. at McCarthy Park,
Was it 9 to noon?
probably, by the time we. If not, if no one can make it, then we'll just, Doug and I will go around and do pictures and I can put something together for a future meeting. Just to show you. But I need to know now, because I need to know if someone's going and we do it, or no one's gonna go and we cancel it.
As we discussed before, I can,
Yeah.
if there's enough for,
Mhm.
if there's enough for it to make sense, I can.
Commissioner Baker, are you going?
Yeah,
Painter, are you going?
yeah, I don't think those two are, so. So I said, you're the only one, Matt, then we probably shouldn't do
All
it.
right,
I'm not gonna,
then I think you should take some pictures.
all right, we'll just do pictures then.
Thank you.
And then I just wanted to let everyone know that you have run out of water for your refrigerator in
Oh
there,
my gosh.
commissioners. Your last few bottles are in the fridge.
I've got a boatload. We got a grand. I got a bunch from Ice Mountain, and I've got more than we'll use. I'll bring some.
Okay. All right, I think that's all I've got.
Okay. Number 3 is the chair board correspondence. The chair doesn't have anything. Anyone else on the board? Charlie, go ahead.
I think I am missing 2 controller evaluations. Okay. Yours, Chris?
I gave you yours.
Okay.
To get the meeting.
I think I'm missing Ron's.
Yeah,
Were you
Scott.
going to do one or no?
We had discussed how
You were-
it'd
you're
be,
abstaining?
yeah, I
Okay.
will abstain.
I think I'm just missing Ron's then maybe. Did you get me yours, Pete?
Nope.
I didn't? Okay.
I didn't think you were going to call me out like that.
Good job, good job.
Listen, you're not afraid to do it to others. We know that.
Well, it doesn't sound like we're using it today, so I'll get it to you.
Thanks.
All right. Next is old business. We don't have anything. Public comments.
I don't know why it didn't get brought up, but the wage study was put on our desk.
Oh, yeah, I forgot all about it. Sorry.
So
I was thinking there was something else I needed to say, but yeah, so
I-
that's the completion of the wage study. The top long legal sheet are all the counties that responded to me. Anything in like that goldenrod color, I did not put in the averages. And then I broke it down by region, by general fund budget, by population, by FTEs, and by, what was the last one? That's what the subsequent attachments are. So you should have like 6 stapled paid things all together there.
taxable value is the other one.
Values, the other one, yeah. So
So I think
review,
yeah, I think we should probably when we're talking about money after the 4 things we're going to decide on for spending down fund balance, that needs to be next up.
do you want that put on an agenda at this point, or you just kind of let's play it by ear after next meeting, or
I think we're gonna have enough to talk about next meeting, but I would say maybe first meeting in November,
whatever?
yeah.
Did you get a sense of where it was? I mean, I gotta get home and get my glasses, Stephen.
Well, and I was working like mad to get all of those 5 different done before the meeting today, so I haven't had a lot of time to really.
I looked over it before
Absorb
the
it.
meeting and I mean, there's some inadequacies and there's some people that are being paid well. You know, it's ultimately going to come down to what we think is fair and what is, you know, what the numbers dictate. But I mean, realistically, with 3% bumps coming, that everybody's slated to get, it looks like on the face of it, everything's pretty close.
Well, but you got to consider those other counties too are going to get bumps
Right,
right along the side of our 3%.
right.
So they're still there, in that gap.
So with that being said, that if right now Commissioner Peterson was figuring on the 3%, putting us kind of in the sweet spot, and everybody else gets the 3%,
We think
we
they're going to
may
get
be
the 3
lagging a
spot.
little bit.
There's some spots we're lagging. There's some spots we're grossly over.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's interesting to look at, and I mean, you know, if you look like Jackson County's on there, I mean, they're obviously a little bit bigger.
Yeah, they didn't end up in any of my comparables, any of my.
Right, Clinton County is you know, they got East Lansing. I mean, it's a very fair wage study. I think you know, on the other side of the coin, there's Mecosta, Newaygo, Oceana. I mean, there's tops and bottoms here, and I think it's very well done.
What was the timeline we had kind of carved out to maybe try and do something with this first of the year?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for doing this, Brenda. It is extremely helpful and interesting to look over.
Lot to pour over there, isn't there?
There is, yeah. And I wanted to give you everybody so you could then kind of look at, maybe figure out why I pulled the ones I pulled by parameter there. So by region, that's an easy one. I just took all the ones around us. I could not get numbers from Isabella. They're kind of in a world of hurt up there, I think, right now. So, and then by general fund budget, ours is around 17 million. So I kind of tried to get people that were in the high 16 millions to the mid 17 million. FTEs, we were the biggest county actually in the FTEs. So that one was a little bit harder to, and that's mostly because of EMS. We have a ambulance service. Most of the others don't. I was astonished at Clinton County's number of EFTs at 160 with a $28 million general fund budget. But we have 250 with a 17 million. I mean, that's all FTEs, not just general fund FTEs.
Well, you said EFTs, and it really threw me for a loop.
FTEs, did I see EFTs?
You did, and I thought, well, everybody else, Nobody else is saying anything, so I should know what that means.
FTEs. Full-time equivalents.
Well, I know what that means, but the EFT kind of
Sorry.
hit me with a knuckle.
It's funny. They have
Electronic
letters
funds
in them.
transfer.
Yeah, well, we do with EFTs in our office too. And EMTs and. Too many,
I think that was a public comment. Is there any other public comments?
I would move to adjourn.
Support. It's been moved and supported to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
This is interesting stuff.